Hi friends, welcome back. Just a little PSA to you from Mr. Drew. Remember to get outside, get some sun, get some fresh air, because all art and no sun makes Mr. Drew a grumpy boy. So come on inside with me and we'll talk about some crosshatch. I'll admit to you, I'm not the best at crosshatch. In my mind, crosshatch takes the most practice out of really any drawing technique to get good at it. You'll even see professional comic book artists who they'll do demonstrations you can see on YouTube, and as good as they are, they still talk about getting rusty. So this really takes a lot of practice. I have not sketched anything yet today. I actually drew this out last night, but before I wanted to start, I just decided to do a page of practice lines, all kinds of different directions. It's ugly, I know, but it just kind of helps loosen your arm up and get warmed up for starting to do the crosshatch technique. So last night what I did, I took this photo. It's a copyright-free photo off of Google. And I sketched it out here loosely, and then I took a piece of tracing paper on top of it to clean it up some and refine my line work and make it a little more accurate. And then I took this along with a piece of homemade transfer paper, just some graphite on the back of another piece of tracing paper, and then I used that to transfer this 3 times. You might ask, why did you transfer it 3 times? Well, because 3 heads are better than 1. Gotcha. 3 heads gives me an opportunity to practice maybe different line directions on each of the heads. I think that crosshatch takes a lot of planning to think through where your lines are going to go, what direction you want to put them in. You know, traditionally we have just kind of a crossed pattern with lines kind of rotating every 15 degrees or so. So getting 90-degree lines. And then 45-degree lines here, things like that. So that's kind of the traditional method, but you can see in a lot of professional, especially ink work, that even going back to Charles Gibson, where he had a lot of lines that followed the form. So here I am just going to practice. Maybe the first one will turn out good, maybe not, but it'll at least give me some practice and warm up, and then I can try to apply some of those things I learned on the next one. We'll see. If the first one turns out, then I'll just leave it at that. So I'm gonna just draw here, and then I'll probably speed it up depending on how long this goes, and maybe do some voiceover for you. So I'm gonna start drawing here. And if I think of anything else I want to share with you, then I will slow down and make those comments. I should probably mention something about pencils here before I get started. I'm just using a 0.5 mechanical pencil with an HB lead in it. Now this is not a very large size head. From hair to chin, it's just over 3 inches. So that is, I don't know if you can see that ruler there, a little bit darker, but it's just about 3 inches. So this is not very large, and honestly I would probably prefer to use my 0.3 mechanical pencil, which is even smaller, but it's not as readily available. So I'm going to just work with what I've got here and what most of you will probably have on hand. Some ways you can overcome that lead getting thicker is just by wearing down the tip. So here I'm going to have a scrap piece of paper to just scribble on. And when you do that, you wear away one edge of the lead, and then you can turn it over and get some really fine little lines. So I'm going to keep doing that throughout the process here, just working the paper on the scrap here so I can get a sharp edge, and then have some thin little lines as I draw. You'll probably also see me rotating the paper. So yeah, ideally you would be able to do perfect lines in every direction, but that's not always the case, especially if you're new to the crosshatch technique. So what I'm going to do, I'm most comfortable kind of going in this bottom left to top right motion. So if I have an area where I need that control, but that direction is not going to work for an area, I'll just rotate the paper to match my hand angle where I'm comfortable with. So yeah, it's not cheating. I've seen professionals do that as well. So let's get into it here and we'll see how it goes. Couple of things. So I'm sorry, I forgot to hit record for my last session here, and you can see I started to darken up the shadows in the hair some more. I actually switched to a 2B wooden pencil, and you just have to make sure, just like the mechanical pencil, that you keep that really sharp to get some nice lines. So a couple of thoughts here since I've been working on this. You might have seen where I erased and reworked some areas, and that's okay with the pencil crosshatch. Ink crosshatch, you're kind of out of luck, but here with pencil crosshatch, you can see, especially on the neck, I tried reworking some of the directions. I tried reworking some of the nose. Even on the hair here, I was going with the direction of the hair, and I just wanted to see what would happen if I crossed over the opposite direction. It darkened it and it kind of evened it out some more, but not too sure about that. Once again, that's why it's nice to have multiples here I can practice on. I'm really not, I don't think I'm going to finish the other two here, but these are just some thoughts that I'm having as I'm working. So if you do erase and try to rework an area, try to erase that entire area. So like here, if I was going to try to rework this side of the face, I would probably erase this entire shadow where it's all connected. It's a little bit hard to get a consistent pattern if you erase right in the middle and then try to pick that up again. With pencil, there's an added benefit of applying pressure or using less pressure, where ink, once again, the ink is just going to be one value. But with the pencil, if I just do light strokes, so just barely any pressure, I can get super, super light values. And then as soon as I start to apply some more pressure, I can get darker values. And then if I need to go even darker, I can go with a darker pencil and darken those things up. Yeah, so those are some thoughts I'm having as I'm working on this. And once again, disclaimer, I'm not the best at this technique, so I am actually still kind of warming up with this. So I'll keep doing some more work here and speed it back up for you. So before I started this one, and this is going to be my last test of the session here. So I went and looked at some Charles Dana Gibson ink crosshatches. I'm really glad I did. I can't stress enough how important it is for us as artists to go and look at professional examples, and that's going to give us some great ideas on how to handle what we're working on currently. So my first run over here, I was kind of noodling, you know, getting really just finicky with how I was working on it. And then I looked at Gibson and just saw how confident and how strong his line work was. Now, you still do have to be careful, like here in the face. I still want to have fine lines. I don't want super dark, heavy lines describing these small forms, especially on a small head like this. But the direction that he used his lines was interesting to see. Sometimes he would wrap the lines around the form. Sometimes they would kind of be parallel with the form. Basically all the time the hair, he would draw it in the direction the hair was going, and I think that kind of gives it a little more of a flowing feeling anyway. But then with some of the forms here, like here in the eye socket, my first run, I was going kind of like this radiating sunburst of lines. And that can work. I've seen that work before. But it seems like Gibson was going kind of in the direction of that shadow. If we were seeing that shadow as a line, then even here you can see on the nose, rather than going across, and that's something that you can play with. You know, going across the form can definitely help describe that form, but I don't know. I was trying to be like Gibson here and just follow parallel to that form, and that seemed to work really well. And then maybe for turning forms, you can see here I've got some chunks of lines. So rather than just having everything perfectly vertical, so maybe I start out more vertical up here, and then as that cheek and jaw start turning around, I can kind of change the direction and wrap those lines around the form in that direction. So I will put some of those Gibson drawings in here for you to see. They are really, really beautiful. There are a lot of other great pen and ink illustrators who did very strong crosshatch techniques, but he was kind of the godfather of the pen and ink. So yeah, all right, that's about it. I will take some pictures of these close up so you can kind of see what I was doing with those, and I'll put in some of those Gibson pictures as well. So thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next time.